Alright, this will be a new table of contents 2.4 deductive reasoning. Now, what is deductive reasoning? It is also known as logical reasoning. You may see it that way. I say deductive reasoning. But it is the process of reasoning logically from given statements or facts to a conclusion. So, in other words, I'm going to give you statements and facts, and then we have to come up with a conclusion. So, there's specific cases of deductive reasoning. There's law of detachment and law of syllogism. So the first one we're going to look at is law of detachment. So the law of detachment, in a lot of words, says if the hypothesis of a true conditional is true. So in other words, that if-then statement, if that hypothesis is true, then that conclusion is true. So what it looks like in PQ nonsense is if you have P arrow Q, that P is true and Q is true. Now over here in this box, I put it here so I wouldn't forget, you're going to use law of detachment when you have an if-then statement and then just another second statement. So let's see how this works. So your directions are, for example 1, what can you conclude from the given true statements? Okay, well this is what you're given. If a student gets an A on a final exam, then the student will pass the course. Second statement, Felicia got an A on her history exam. Now, our goal is to take this information and using the law of detachment, we need to make a conclusion. Now, what in the world are you supposed to, how do you make a conclusion from this? Well, let's talk about it. Alright, so with your two statements, if your second statement matches the hypothesis of the given conditional. So in other words, my second statement tells me Felicia got an A on her history exam. Okay? If it matches the hypothesis of your first statement, then you can make a conclusion. Well, does Felicia got an A on her history exam match a student gets an A on a final exam? Well, yes, Felicia is the student. She gets an A and it's on her history exam. So then we use that information to make the conclusion. Well, the conclusion, I don't know what I was saying, the conclusion will be the actual conclusion of your statement. So the student will pass the course. So in this specific example talking about Felicia, the conclusion we can draw is Felicia will pass her history course. Okay, so we took the if-then and then the second statement, as long as hypothesis matched your second statement, then you can make a conclusion. So let's try example 2. Go ahead and try this one on your own and then see if you get it right. So your two statements are if two angles are adjacent, then they share a common vertex. So angle 1 and angle 2 share a common vertex. So with this, you need to make sure that two angles are adjacent match angle 1 and 2 share a common vertex. Well, since the two angles are adjacent is your hypothesis and share a common vertex was what your statement's talking about, they don't match up. And if they don't match up, then you cannot make a conclusion using the law of detachment. So then your answer will be you cannot make a conclusion. So this is video 1 of 3. So now we're going to learn about law of syllogism.